Thanks, Mike. My name is Twomey, and welcome to the Political Desk. In a perfect democracy, truth prevails, candidates don't slander, and the citizens are knowledgeable. In American democracy, these things aren't evident. Every U.S. citizen above the age of 18 has the right to vote for whomever they wish. As you know, every person gets one vote. A well-informed citizen's vote counts just as much as a misinformed citizen's. And because of this reason, politics are grimy. I'm not saying that well-informed citizens deserve more than one vote. What I think is important is that there are more well-informed citizens. Propaganda has taken hold of Americans instead of policy. According to the Civic Literacy Report, less than half of all Americans can name all three branches of government. 24% of Americans can't name the country America fought in the Revolutionary War. On Real Time, Bill Maher pointed out that more than 2/3 of Americans don't know what's in Roe versus Wade, and 2/3 don't know what the Food and Drug Administration does. Half of Americans don't know what states have 2 senators, and more than half can't name their congressman. On the eve of the Iraq War, 70% of Americans believe that Saddam Hussein was personally involved with 9/11. He wasn't. 1/3 of Republicans believe Obama is not a citizen, and 24% of Republicans believe that the President of the United States, that's right, Barack Obama, is the Antichrist. Yes, that's correct. Almost a quarter of Republicans believe that Barack Obama will deny them eternal salvation. Google it. It's not just liberals or conservatives that are misinformed, it's everyone. In fact, according to the Civic Literacy Report, on a test about government, liberals scored 49% out of 100. Conservatives scored 48%, and moderates scored 51%. Most Americans don't pay attention to politics. It's a fact. Yet they complain about taxes and the government. If almost 1/3 of your income is going to the government, don't you want to know what it's being used on? Political ads in this country have stooped to extreme political rhetoric, TV attacks, and sound bites. Why? Why don't people care about the policy? Why are people so opposed to Obamacare? And why do they think it is a socialist program, but they are so in favor of Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security? Newsflash, Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security are liberal programs. I suppose the death penalties that were in Obama's health care plan may have some people concerned. Paul Ryan's Republican plan actually privatizes Medicare, forcing seniors to pay more for their health care. Where are the senior citizens protesting in the street? They should be up in arms. The newest talking point from the Republican Party is revenue is not the problem, spending is the problem. This essentially means that people are paying too much in taxes and we should cut more government programs. Here's a chart showing the spending and the revenue of the federal government. The red line represents federal spending and the green line represents federal receipts. As you can see, we ran a deficit under Ronald Reagan, Bush Sr., and the first 6 years of Bill Clinton's presidency. Then in 2000, Bush went from a surplus to a deficit in less than 2 years. Tax cuts were given to the wealthy in the form of the Bush tax cuts, and we began funding the war in Afghanistan and Iraq. Bush didn't account how he was going to pay for it. Just leave it for the next guy, right? Then the housing bubble began in 2003, and federal revenue went up along with spending. Then in 2008, the financial crisis hit as a result of the housing bubble. Why did the housing bubble pop? Well, there was close to zero regulation of the financial industry under Alan Greenspan. In 2008, in order to avoid a second Great Depression, we cut taxes to reduce the burden on the middle class and increase spending in the private sector, such as TARP and the stimulus plan, to bail out failed non-regulated companies like AIG, forcing us into an even greater deficit. So here we are today, in 2011. The federal government was prepared to handle the retirement of the baby boomers in 2000 before Bush was elected. The 2 wars, the financial collapse, and the tax cuts are the reason we are in such a deep hole. But now we are left with a crisis on how to pay for senior citizens that have paid into the safety net programs for all of their lives. More tax cuts aren't the answer. There's no debate that the federal budget needs to be reined in. But how can we expect to pay for a retiring generation if we keep giving tax breaks to the wealthy? This is why we should maybe change the Republican talking point. Revenue and spending are both problems, and we need to address both. The talking points of the 2 political parties drown out the real important issues that voters need to hear about. Talking points are just another form of propaganda to avoid talking about real issues. The reason why a lot of politicians seem superficial and fake is because they only need to appeal to 51% of the voters. If the majority of people don't pay attention to politics or policy, an attack ad on your opponent, a cheesy smile, and a nice suit may actually get you the position. The point of this whole segment is to explain why politics is the way it is. Politicians care about getting elected. People will vote for the person they like, not necessarily the person that best serves their needs. Having a more educated population will lead to better elected officials in office. Typically, at the end of a segment, I'll tell you to go vote. Yes, go vote. But do some research before you go vote. Find out exactly what you're voting for. That does it for us here at CSTV News. My name is Twomey. Hopefully we'll see you next week. Good night.